Okay, so I'll start, although when you say unique model or new institution or even an innovation, it's also a tricky thing because how long you are unique or new or something is innovative. And actually, I will also come back to this question in the last sentences of the presentation. So I go back to the challenges that we met 10 years ago. I don't want to tell you the story of 10 years of how our institution operated. I just believe that some of those questions are really key questions that some institutions should go back to. We were a team of people after 2 years of bidding process for ECOC, after a loss because another city got the title. But definitely some process started in Gdansk, and definitely both the audiences, people who work in cultural sector, but also the city authorities noticed that it cannot be stopped. Monika today gave a broader context. Thank you, Monika, for that, for a situation in Poland, for the feeling of what is the social capital level and level of trust. And I believe that this level of trust also is about people and how they feel that they are being noticed in the decision-making processes within the city. But definitely our mayor, also mentioned by Monika today earlier, he believed that this process is unstoppable. And so such institution as my team was actually needed somehow. But our questions were, so how to keep the city and citizens priority in the politics of the city. And also when we say that our audience is our citizens of Gdansk, so what it means, actually there are many, many different audiences. It's a very broad and very diverse community of people. So also how, when we talk about influence on city development, also we can be conscious what kind of influence, economic, social, urbanistic, so how to play with other players who are responsible for those areas to really be effective. And can we be cross-sectoral? Are we allowed, being a cultural institution, act as cross-sectoral institution? Also, how to define our aims and areas of expertise, as we all cooperate within other institutions, and we need to have our identity, our brand, and our field of expertise. And the last one, we were the city institution, meaning run by the city, financed mainly by the city. We were dealing with urban culture. We also had this profile of intermediate body, and the question was how to keep it not to be, we were not above other institutions, we were rather in between them, also in between some communities, some NGOs and other cultural players. So the question was how to keep it and how to keep the trust of all people we cooperate with. So we came up with our mission. We wanted to work for the city that is, I'm sorry, I just need to, oh, thank you. So we wanted to act for accessibility and openness and diversity of urban culture, but also for activity and competence of people who create it. And yesterday was when I was listening to the presentation of Trevor. I think that when he mentioned how he understands what the point of departure for cultural planning was, he mentioned how to maintain socially inclusive and culturally sensitive. I think I could use his words as well to grasp the feeling of what we felt that our mission should be. And obviously we decided that our main area is Gdansk. Gdansk meaning mainly public spaces, but public spaces are mainly local spaces, city districts, the places where people live and the places where people meet. I don't mean only outside places. Obviously we talk also about the places in some institutions or buildings, so also indoor. And we decided that we need to share and consciously prepare our offer for two main groups of our target groups. One were inhabitants, obviously we tried to profile the groups that we are talking to, and we still do that. And we define sometimes our groups by space, sometimes by interest, sometimes by social status, sometimes by their interests and needs. But the second very important group that we work for are professionals. So those are art managers, artists, urbanists, architects. But when we say professionals, we also mean urban activists, local leaders, people who actually are the leaders of cultural activities. And so, as I said, we separated these two areas of how we act. And we believe in our activities targeted at citizens. Our role is to inspire, to create, but also to support. Thinking about cultural sector, we mainly focus on support and knowledge. That's why a very important is the support that we have from our cultural observatory that is part of the institution, with its aim and mission to bring knowledge and support for all the cultural workers, both the professionals and the inhabitants, but also to the institution. I mean here the evaluation of certain projects, giving us research and knowledge, and sometimes some information we need to make. Now I will use Ruta's term, how to be conscious in our decision-making processes and in the directions that we work in. So very briefly about the actions targeted at professionals. As I said, it's mainly support and knowledge. We use different formats, usually known formats such as seminars, workshops, and other consultations. We also initiate research projects, and we try to share as much as possible of the findings. So consultations and publications are important, and they are always open to our public, to audiences, to our partners. We try to make them and to publish them on open licenses. But what I would like to focus, because this is much more the subject of what we are talking about here, is how we think about our projects targeted at citizens and how we balance different kind of mission in this field. So we believe that our role is to inspire, and this is how we build our events, our interventions, but also walks, lectures, and some other events, and they are focused sometimes more on the city space, sometimes more on the community, or both. And some of them evaluate. I will show you on some examples. The second role is not only to create, but to encourage, to co-create. So we need to have feedback and have the proof that it initiated something, that people take the power, take the responsibility, and that they take the role of the co-organizers. And the third one is support. And again, it can be any kind of support. It can be self-esteem, it can be knowledge, it can be financial support, it can be some education or any other tool that can be needed. So I will focus on 3 projects that show the way that the projects can evaluate. I'll start with narrations. This is the festival that takes place in November. It's mainly about exploring, or it used to be about exploring urban threats and stories. And the main idea was how to inspire people to show the artistic perspective for certain narratives or certain spaces. So initially it was space oriented. So it was always based on curatorial concepts. Some of the works were site specific, but even here, I would underline a lot that it was built on the needs of people. On the first picture, you can see the bridge. Actually, there is no bridge. This is just an installation that was to show the basic need of people living on those 2 sides of the river. They needed a connection. They needed the connection because actually those places are really close, but there was no such bridge still. It is now there. Then we started to think about some other roles that this kind of festival could have. So we moved to other districts. We moved to some districts that have a not such a bad reputation, that are perceived to be dangerous, and it would be like the last place that we would think about the cultural scene. But also we opened much more for participatory projects and open call projects that were being proposed and realized by local artists who based it and built it on the deep knowledge of people needs and on the insight from the district and from the local communities. And this year we started completely new approach to the festival because it was preceded by some other actions and deep diagnosis of the needs of people and also of their stories. And we asked them to prepare the whole range of participatory projects, bottom-up projects. We combine one of our format that we introduced within the city, which is called Open CCI, meaning that we only give some financial support and other support if it's needed, but the whole organization and the whole project is being run together with inviting people, and participants is run by people who come with the idea to us. And this kind of formats, I think, also constitute our institution because we develop them more and more. We started with the projects taking part in our site. Those of you who visited it know that this is a small corridor with capacity of 100 people, so it's not big. But actually, over 2.5 years, we organized more than 125 this kind of events with many participants. Now probably the numbers are different and bigger. Another format that can be used, and this is what we do sometimes, are interventions that are irregular in some spaces that so the project was to explore new spaces, thinking about mainly being an artistic multidisciplinary project. But again, it doesn't mean that we only need to work with old buildings that are abandoned or the places where the city thinks about some renovation or revitalization. But we started recently, the last edition of the project was in with cooperation with local businesses. We used a really terrible building. We call in Poland Gargamels. I don't know if you know the Smurfs and Gargamels. This is this kind of building that is from 90s and people find rather awful. So the business is slowly dying, and we used it as a cultural scene. We introduced people there, we gave it a new life, and actually it initiated the process of thinking about changing the place and giving it the second life. Maybe I will omit this project, but I will focus on another one. Another example of how much the focus on space can move and transform into the focus on community. We have the district of block of flats. It's called Zaspa district. And we started mural project that was being planned just for 6 years, from 2010 to 16, in case we have the ECOC title. And people and also those communities living in those block of flats started to love the murals. They wanted to cooperate, so the collection grew. And in this district, what happened? People wanted to take responsibility for talking about those murals. And this is where the local guides projects initiated. So people wanted to be guides in their own district. They wanted to know more about it. They wanted to know more about artists, about those murals, and to be the hosts for other people coming. So now the collection is quite big, but we are so much more proud of the people who are hosts of the district. And every year there are many, many walks in a district where the citizens living there are the guides. And now the project is being run in 7 different districts of Gdansk. And this is one of those projects that I would call co-created, because what we gave is a little bit of knowledge, some lectures on history of the place or on architectural issues, urbanistic issues, but what the people add is the whole layer of their individual stories and their involvement, the way how they are engaged, how much they are proud of showing their places is quite amazing. And also the scale of this project, actually it was very surprising because it grows all the time, and we have more and more districts that want to have this project with us or without us. They just want to be guides in their own places. And actually, when you look at statistics, so you can see that that scale is quite big. But also on the example of this project, I wanted to show how much the districts also change and inhabitants of those districts change. So we started, first of all, we started some walks in English for tourists, but it turned out that we have completely different structure and demographic in those districts, and we need to take into account the non-speaking Polish communities that live there, mainly Ukrainian and Russian. So we also started to run those walks in those languages. And the next step is to welcoming those people also as the guides, because they have the same right to show their own roots and how they perceive and how they see the district. So so this is how we think about being conscious and check how our audiences, how our communities change, and how much we need to follow those changes to be still with them. This is the example of another project which ran through exactly the same process. Last example of the bottom-up project of Gdansk Neighbor Days. Again, we are not here the organizer. We are here only the institution that gives some support and some incentives, and we just wait for people to act the way they think and the way they find suitable. The key is here, we want them to meet. We want them to meet every year more and more, and to meet new people and to create those communities. Just one short slide about new venue that we are going to get probably next year or in 2 years. This is quite a long story of the building being given to an institution, but anyway, this is another challenge, how to think about all the actings and what we do and our mission, and also how to create a space that will be somehow reflecting those ideas and those values, which is not so obvious. What we started to do is to make people acquaintance with the area. It was a very, very empty route that nobody was using for a long time. So we decided to start some actions there just to see people if it can be another place or another hub, another place where people can meet or treat it as a space for them, as a public space. And coming back to the model that I was speaking to, it's very important that our objectives and the city objectives somehow relate to each other, and that we do not think about it sectorally. When we think about our aims, they are very much part of the city strategy. And that's why we are part, and also we are partners, not only of cultural department, but social development department, Gdansk development in terms of space, also research department or education. Also, when we think about our role for professionals and cultural sector, this is very important to become, as I said, the intermediate, not above, not another competing institution, just to be a partner, but also open to give our knowledge and our resources to the others. So we try to support not only other NGOs and active citizens, but also other institutions. But also it's important still how to stay the independent cultural institution. In Polish system, you have it guaranteed by law that you are independent, but it's not so easy to keep this independence, especially when you are financed from public money. But this is the I think that this is our role and the way to try to balance our independence together with needs of the city and needs of our partners. So if I would if I was to somehow summarize what's the model I believe and which is important in our activities, I would call it a balance on different axes. One is the balance thinking about the formats that we use. It's this balance between creating and supporting. This is what I tried to show, showing you some examples of the projects. Another one is being focused on communities and spaces, and I believe they are both interrelated. So sometimes you can also think about focus on space, but then it turns out that actually you influence the community life. Also, we don't value long-term or short-term projects. We believe that sometimes also short-term projects can have results and can make a change, and they are both important. And the same when we think about evaluation of our projects, about its outputs, outcomes, or impact. It's all important. We need to remember that we are all acting in the world of difficult financing. So we all need certain visibility on one hand, certain compromises sometimes, but we all need to have this also long-term perspective, which is very important. And actually impact is something that is probably the more important value in cultural activities. And also we feel about this balance, thinking about what is innovation and effectiveness. We valued a lot and underlined that we want to be experimental, innovative institution. We are perceived as such. But after some time, we believe that what is important is to look at some methods and tools and think about them if they are effective. And remember that whatever is an innovative, it may be not an innovation anymore after some time. So we need to be quite careful and also leverage those methods that we use. So the last question, the question that was asked, I think I found yesterday beautiful answers in presentations mainly of Trevor and of Liva. And for the question that I also put on the Menti, so when does the cultural driver stops being a cultural driver and becomes a social driver? And I noted three that I really liked yesterday. So when it builds the sense of citizenship, when it has the power to enrich citizens, and when it builds the sense of belonging and inclusion and makes people to participate, to act. So I really believe that any method and tool and format that results in above is social innovation. So I think I will finish with that, asking if you maybe have some questions.
Thank you, Alexandra, for all this. It seems, I need to be honest, it seems heartbreaking to look at all those pictures with people and remembering what took place this summer. And it has a lot of nostalgia, a lot of sentiment for events with people. Thanks for your presentation.
On the beaches, you cannot see that, unfortunately. On the beaches, people behave like nothing happened, but in other places, you can feel completely the difference.
Yeah, that's true. We have some answers. We have some answers on Mentimeter. I will stop screen sharing you, and let's see what the Mentimeter gives to us. And we have these answers. Can you see them? I started to share the screen.
I see them. It's just quite small. Let me.
Okay, make it bigger. So when does the culture driver stops being a culture driver? When does the culture driver stop being a culture driver and becomes a social driver? And and the answers are, you know, when it connects people, when it happens at the same time, and the answers are still available to be casted. So please do write them when you can. And so yeah, we can see that it's something to do with the shape shifting, something to do about taking place at the same time. But I believe that you have, since you had the question, I believe you have something as an answer for this question yourself.
Yes, this is what I just mentioned in the presentation. I believe that I found the answers in almost every presentations from yesterday and from today, because we all have in mind thinking about culture and social innovation, or culture and the change, actually the change in us, in people, in our attitudes, in our approaches, and in our engagement to how we want to create the spaces we live in. So for me, this is the answer. So actually all of them are somehow part of this answer.
True. Maybe someone has a question to Alexandra in the chat. We have a comment, and of course we have compliments, not not questions for now. So if
the end of the second day, Martin, is it possible anybody having questions? I believe
it is crazy, yeah. But anyway, so I hope you're going to stick around for some time. So when people have questions, they can ask them to you directly, or you can ask them on chat. And also, please, when it's an opportunity for a couple of more minutes, add your answer to Mentimeter. But anyway, thank you, Alexandra, for your presentation. A very brave choice. A very brave choice to be the last one to present.
I had no choice, I must say that. You planned me like that. But thank you for staying with me.
No, it was very, very good. Very, like I said, nostalgic and sentimental to look at our presentation.
Actually, I had a few pictures with you from our events in Gdansk, but then I said no, because you will be thinking about what happened, not what I'm talking about.
Think about yourself, not about it. Thank you very much to Alexandra.